Today we're going to be looking at rational equations. A rational equation is simply an equation with at least one rational expression. And a reminder, a rational expression is an expression that has a variable in the denominator. The thing that makes rational equations a little bit more difficult to solve is the fact that they have a variable in the denominator. So what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate that by multiplying both sides by the least common denominator. So we have these steps here we can use to solve rational equations. First, we're going to factor all the denominators, noting which values cannot be the answer, and that's the values that make the denominator 0. We're going to find the least common denominator, multiply both sides by that least common denominator. That's what's going to eliminate the fractions, and then we'll just have a polynomial equation that we need to solve after that. For this first one, we want to solve 18 over x minus 6 equals 6. We can't factor the denominators because that's finished already. It's just x minus 6. We do want to note that 6 cannot be an answer, so I'll just write this over here. X cannot equal 6 because 6 makes the denominator 0, and I know that can't be a solution. So the least common denominator is simply x minus 6, so we're going to take the 18 over x minus 6 and multiply both sides by that least common denominator. On the left side, that denominator cancels. The x minus 6 cancels with x minus 6. On the right side, we'll go ahead and distribute. So we have 18 on the left equals 6x minus 36. And we're just going to solve this. We'll add 36 to both sides. We get 6x equals 54. And lastly, we'll divide both sides by 6, which gets us x is equal to 9. We can check that pretty quickly here. By plugging that in, 18 over x minus 6, well, we have 9 minus 6. Is that equal to 6? Well, 9 minus 6 in the denominator is 3. 18 divided by 3 does equal 6, so that is our correct answer. So our answer is x equals 9. Moving on to this next one here, we have 1 over x plus 4 equals 5 over x minus 8. We're going to factor the denominators, noting which values cannot be an answer. So here, this is factored already, but we can note that x cannot equal negative 4, because that would make the first denominator 0, and x cannot equal 8, because that would make the second denominator 0. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take our equation and multiply by the least common denominator. In this case, the least common denominator is the x plus 4 times the x minus 8. Again, we do that so we can eliminate the denominators. So we see on the left side that the x plus 4 cancels with x plus 4. On the right side, x minus 8 cancels with x minus 8. We're left with x minus 8. On the left side, we have to distribute here, so we have 5x plus 20, and we're going to solve that. So we get x equals negative 7. Let's go ahead and check that. And it works, so x equals negative 7 is the answer. Moving on to example 3, 12 over x plus 1 equals x minus 3. Again, we want to factor the denominator here. There's nothing to factor. We will note that x cannot equal negative 1 because negative 1 would make that denominator 0, and we can't divide by 0. So what we do is we take our original equation And we're going to multiply both sides by the common denominator, which is x plus 1. On the left, the denominator cancels. We just have 12 is equal to, and then distributing, we get x squared plus x minus 3x minus 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides because I see we have a quadratic here. At the same time, I'm going to add like terms, so we have x squared minus 2x minus 15. The easiest way to solve a quadratic is to factor it if possible, and this one does factor. This factors to x minus 5 times x plus 3. And we have two things multiplied to equal 0, so therefore either x minus 5 has to equal 0 or x plus 3 has to equal 0. And solving each of those, we get either x equals 5 or x equals negative 3. And that's our answer. We can write it like this. Of course, we could check those to see if they work. Here's our last rational equation that we want to solve. This time we actually can factor the denominators. So our first term stays the same over here on the right side. This denominator factors to x minus 4 times x plus 1. And so we notice here that our common denominator is just x minus 4 times x plus 1. So that's what we're going to multiply both sides by. So on the left side, when we multiply this, the x minus 4 cancels, and we're left with x plus 1 times x plus 2. On the right, we have to be careful. We need to distribute these two things. We'll distribute it to this term and then to this term. When we multiply by the first term, our common denominator actually cancels with the whole denominator. I'm not going to cross it out because I need it for the second term. So when we multiply times the first term, the denominators cancel. We're just left with 30. When we multiply by the second term, just the x plus 1 will cancel with the x plus 1, and so we'll be left with 4 times x minus 4. And now we're down to a simpler equation. So the left side will multiply. We get x squared plus 2x plus x plus 2. On the right side, we get 30. Distributing the 4, we get 4x minus 16. Adding like terms. Since it's a quadratic, we're going to get everything to one side. And then we're going to factor. I didn't do this at the beginning, which I should have, but I should have noted which answers cannot be a solution. So looking at our denominator, actually just in this one right here, we notice that x cannot equal 4 or negative 1 because putting 4 in would make a denominator 0, or putting negative 1 in would make a denominator 0. So as we get down to the end here to our answer, we see that this first term would give us x equals 4. The second term, the second factor, would give us x equals negative 3. But we do have to note that x equals 4 cannot be a solution because that would make the denominator 0. And so our answer to this is x equals negative 3. So it's very important to make sure you note which values cannot be an answer so you don't accidentally put a wrong answer on there. It may make the denominator 0. And that is solving rational equations.